Join me for my special guest appearance on the Keep Hope Alive podcast, hosted by Nadine Malone. Today, we explore the question, what is life really all about, anyways? Discover insights that could change the way you see the world and your place in it. And be sure to listen all the way to the end as we uncover a surprising perspective on what life is really all about that might just change the way you look at the world today.
Hi, welcome to Keep Hope Alive podcast. Today, I have a special guest. I would like to welcome you, Mr. Brad Carlson. He's a motivational coach, and we're happy to have you on.
Thank you, Nadine. I'm so happy to be here. Yeah, I'm excited.
Oh my gosh, I'm excited too. You see, I got goosebumps and chills, and
I
it's going to
do.
be fun, fun, fun. So, I have a question before we get started,
Okay.
okay? Just for fun. Out of the past maybe 15 years, how many weddings have you been to?
Oh my gosh, that's a good question. How many weddings have I been to? I have been to two weddings in the past 15 years. And well,
Okay,
if you were to ask me this question in 2 weeks, I could add one more. So
then you
two,
should be
two,
prepared.
two plus one and three and two weeks. So yeah. So two for the
See,
last 15 years. So
you see, I always kind of giggle when I ask that question because I'm a certified wedding planner and a photographer also. So I couldn't even count the number of weddings I've been to over 15 years. I'm like, there's been a lot, a lot. So,
probably for you
but
almost every week,
like,
huh?
do what?
Probably for you almost every week, I bet.
Ah, yeah. Well, I didn't advertise as much, and I had a good team that I worked with as well. But I always say God will direct the clients to me, and I just pray over them. They don't even know that till now. I always pray over any photo shoot I do, and the same for the podcast. I always pray. So, my next question, like if you were a guest going into a church and you were seeing the couple get married, there's something to the sign to let them know that you were there. What is it that they're signing?
The guest registrar, I believe.
Yes, that's correct. So, one of our biggest sponsors at Keep Hope is lifeonrecord.com. And what they do is so cool. They have a vintage phone. So you get to pick it up and say, congratulations on your big day. We're so happy. Yeah, my pretend phone ring-a-ding. We're so happy, or maybe it's a groomsman. Hey, dude, it's about time you put a ring on her finger. Now, when you're in line to leave this, they understand there could be a long line. So they have a QR code that you can scan with your own mobile device. You either leave a message before or after. Now, I use wedding in all my examples, but this is good for any event because it's the gift of voice. And what makes it a gift, after all those messages, so we're on a 12-inch vinyl record or they have a keepsake speaker, and I made up the name, little boombox. So you can go back and listen to your friends and family's voices wishing you, happy wedding or happy birthday. I think what my son playing football, we had a accident. This was about last year, but we used it for the kids to call in and wish the boy to get well soon. And from what I hear, even though he broke a leg, he's playing football again. It was a long story. I did a podcast on it. It's called Truth. But yeah, it was my first emotional podcast. I had to even stop and start over on that one. But before I get off on a tangent, because that's what I'm good at, the
No
plans
problem.
only start at $99 and you get it for 1 year. To find out more information about Life on Record, you can go to www.lifeonrecord.com. All right, so here's the biggest and hardest question to ask.
Uh-oh.
Who
Start
is
right at the begin.
Brad?
Start right at the beginning with the hardest one, right?
Oh yeah, the wedding one is always so hard. But
So who is Brad Carlson? Is that what you asked?
Yes, who's Brad Carlson?
Oh my gosh, that is literally the million-dollar question. And that's my entire journey is based around that one question. Who am I?
Yeah,
And every time I work with a client now, that's the exact question that we start with. Who are you? And I guess I would let me kind of reverse engineer this question, tell you who I am not, because it has been a journey to discover who I am. And to discover who I am, I first had to understand who I am not. So my journey, my story began about 15 years ago when I was sitting. I was still married at the time. I was sitting on my bed in my bedroom at home, and I looked down and saw this massive like couch belly. I think they call it spare tire or Santa Claus belly or anything like that. And I had become very overweight, and I hadn't even realized it till I just sat down that one day and like went, "Whoa, what is this? How did it get here? Where did it come from?" And I was shocked. I was exasperated. I was in disbelief. I was disappointed, to say the least. And so that day, November 2009, I don't remember the exact date in November 2009, but that date began a journey, a 15-year journey into your question that you just asked, who is Brad Carlson? And so I realized, jumping ahead now around a little bit, that on that day, that who I was on that day was an overweight, lethargic couch potato. And then I realized that's not who I am. So when you ask who am I first had to know who I'm not. So this is not the real Brad Carlson, overweight, lethargic couch potato. So then I had to create a new identity. So who is Brad Carlson? Well,
yeah.
2 years into my journey, I love this part of the story. I was in the middle of a divorce, and I was sitting this time on my couch, not my bed. The girls had moved out. It was just me and my Cocker Spaniel puppy. And I was just really down in the dumps for a multitude of reasons, divorce and job stress and just all kinds of things. And I came home from work one day and I threw my bag down and I went and sat on my couch and I just like literally put my hands on my lap and put my head down and I looked up and I saw my dog just a few feet away. And I said, come here, boy, come here, boy, come here, boy, come on over here, Lucky. And he was my best friend in the whole world. He always came over whenever I called him. He was always there to comfort me and love me and hug
Mhm.
me, except for this one time. He wouldn't come over. It was just crazy. I still remember the look on my dog's face that day. I looked up and he just looked at me like, dude, you're a total loser. And he turned around.
Oh,
He went back to his bed and he laid there and his ears were perked up and he looked at me and he knew dogs are very good at sensing energy and feelings and emotions.
yes.
He knew something was wrong and something was up with me. I literally put my hands down on my lap, started my head between my legs or whatever, and just started crying. And just then, this is what I like to say, like the roof on my house opened up, like God hit me over the head or something. And in that moment, I had an epiphany that led to my journey of understanding who is Brad Carlson. And the epiphany I had was that what you focus on and who you focus on, you become. So where the mind goes, the energy flows. Now that basic lesson, what you focus on, you become. Where the mind goes, the energy flows. That's not a new lesson. That's been taught. Now that I realize this, that's been around for thousands of years. Lao Tzu taught that in the Tao Te Ching, just as an example. Many
Mhm.
great leaders and teachers throughout history have taught that exact lesson. But you see, up until that point, for the 2 years from November of 2009 to this was February of 2012, so almost 3 years, a little over 3 years, I had been on this journey to lose weight. But when you're focusing on losing weight, ultimately it doesn't work because you're getting caught in the on again, off again cycle, all of that. I won't go into all the details of that. But in that moment, I had to like understand, okay, what I focus on, I become. So then I asked myself this question: who and what did I want to be? And that changed everything because then I realized who I wanted to be was healthy. And then I said, who is Brad Carlson? Brad Carlson is healthy. And that changed everything because now I had a new identity of who I wanted to be, and I wanted to be healthy. And that was the first stage that set in place a lifelong journey now to discover who I am, but also then to set the stage to help others along their journey to discover who you are. So the very first stage of anything I do, and I think literally for anybody, is to be able to understand that question: who are you? What is your identity? What is your vision for your higher self? When you have that in place, then everything else, particularly if you're on a health journey or weight loss journey, then it will become sustainable. Because up until then, I was just trying to lose weight, and I realized I was focusing on the wrong thing. I wasn't focusing on who I was, and I didn't know who I was. So it's when my dog wouldn't come over to me that night that I had my epiphany, my awakening that, oh, what you focus on, you become. And that was the very first stage. So I am healthy. And now jump ahead to, I guess, 2024. Through all these years, I've continued this journey. I've added two more words: I am happy, healthy, and inspired. And that has been my greatest joy, to discover like who I am, and now to bring this message to the world, that you are your own version of happy, healthy, and inspired. So to teach everyone to be happy, healthy, and inspired in their own version and what that means. So that's kind of a long slash short version of the story. When you ask who is Brad Carlson is a happy, healthy, inspired individual looking to serve the world and bring happiness, health, and inspiration to others as far as possible, as wide as possible.
See, that's good. I love that journey and how you found yourself. That's just amazing. It makes me think back also about my path and weight loss. And when I was younger, probably playing with Barbies, thinking well, I am a wedding planner. I am a wedding
You
planner.
are
So
a
they were always
person.
getting married every day with my Barbies. So, um, but I told myself at a young age, if I ever got overweight, I would have just had to work it off and work it off. I wanted to stay skinny, but there's different journeys, different paths. Mine was a health issue, and I was getting stuff like prednisone and gaining weight off of that, gabapentin, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is not good. But something I did get diagnosed with, it could be corrected with the gastric sleeve. So I did the whole bariatrics route.
Oh, okay.
So, but I'm a true warrior. That's all I'm going to say. People know my health journey, and I am definitely a fighter, but it's been more challenging for me in my life and stuff. But when
We're
I sit back,
gonna do
just like what you're teaching, who
yeah.
am I? Where do I want to be in my higher self? Those are things people really need to hear other people talk about because, we're in a routine. And we're either going to work or doing this, or I'll get to it later. But we got to figure out, why aren't we making time for ourselves? We need it. And of
You
course,
know,
you notice that.
one of the important lessons I learned along the way, you just asked, why aren't we making time for ourselves? Because it's not a priority. That's the main answer. Our own self-care, self-well-being, is not a priority. We say it is, but again, our actions and what we say do not line up. I learned a long time ago that it's not about time management, it's about priority management. And what you give priority to, time will automatically kind of show up. So it took a long time for me to understand and learn that lesson too.
Yeah,
I completely get, the state of the world today. Lots of single parents out there, lots of parents working two jobs. It's a crazy, crazy world, which that completely makes sense. I totally get that. And at the same time, you're suffering in terms of your health and all of that. And so you can continue down the same path, or you can say, wait a second here, I've got to put the brakes on. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different outcome. That's not working. I got to come up with a different plan. I got to make myself a priority, because if you don't make yourself a priority in terms of self care and self love and everything like that, you're never
yeah,
be your best version of yourself at work, at home, in your marriage, your relationship, whatever. And so, if it's 5 extra minutes in the morning or in the evening to do whatever modalities you need to do, I mean, there's a list, infinite number of modalities you can do, from yoga to meditation to reading to
yoga. I knew you were going to say yoga.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do a lot of inner work. I do a journaling exercise just about every day, 10 minutes
Yay.
every
I love
day,
journals. Sorry.
meditations and things about that. So, one thing it's fascinating I want to mention too. So about my journey. So when I discovered that, health, I am healthy, health is who I am, I didn't understand what that word meant. And in the beginning, I thought the word health just pretty much referred to my physical health. So, eating right, exercising, all of that stuff. I never really understood or gave much thought to my mental health, my spiritual health, my emotional health. And the reason that becomes important, during the course of my journey, I became a recreational endurance athlete. And I started doing 5K races, 10Ks, half marathons, the Spartan mud races, and all of this stuff. And I was getting very, very fit, very physically fit at a very high level. But what was happening was my health was deteriorating because I didn't understand this idea of health. And so the more I exercised, the less my energy got, the more stressed I got, the more cortisol was being released. And because I didn't understand this factor about what motivates us, what keeps us going, and why we do what we do. And there's only two reasons that anybody on this planet does anything. So no matter what it is that you're doing, whether it's my case, well, in my case, running 5K, 10K races and all that, you're either doing it from a place of love because you love who you are, that self-love, self-care, or you're
Mhm.
doing it from a place of fear because you think you're not good enough, you're not worthy enough, you're not deserving enough, whatever, all like that. And so what was happening, I was getting fitter, but my health was deteriorating because I was doing all of this from a place of fear. I ran, I don't know, I say 10,000, I don't know if it was that exact amount, but I ran 10,000 hours and 10,000 miles over the course of 7 years, all this training, all for the wrong reasons. Because I needed all these things to validate who I was. And that if I didn't do these races, I wouldn't be worthy, I wouldn't be enough, all of that stuff. And finally, about 5, 6, 7 years ago in my journey, the light bulb went off that said, oh, wait a second. You know what? I can love myself and I can
Yeah.
learn to appreciate myself and value myself and respect myself without all of this, without the 5K races. Now, this is where the magic happens because once I understood that, I kept doing the races. That never stopped. But the reason I was doing them shifted. Instead of doing them from a place of fear, I was now doing all this from a place of peace. And that's what I tell people in your journey. Be very careful about what you're doing and why you're doing it. Are you doing it from the right place? I call it, are you doing it from a place of peace and love, or are you doing it from a place of fear? And only you'll know that. And it's based on, some very hidden beliefs. I had to go really deep with some inner work to uncover some of this stuff. But the most beautiful part is, I always tell people what you do never changes. Keep doing the dieting, keep doing the exercise, whatever. But if you're doing diet and exercise so that you'll love yourself, if you get to a certain size, a certain shape, a certain weight, that's very dangerous because that's called conditional love, conditional acceptance. And if you're not always there, you either you have to almost get to the level of being a junkie, an exercise junkie, a wellness junkie, which that's not healthy at all either. That's the extreme opposite of, lethargic, couch potato, all that. And I was there for a while
Yeah.
too. So I learned that, going from extremely unhealthy to extremely healthy doesn't work either. We have to find that balance in our lives. Everything is about that balance. But when you understand and accept and learn this idea of self-love, and that would be another podcast, but I do teach it a little bit in my book that I've got out now
Yeah.
on Amazon. It's called Fly, FLY. First love yourself, first lead yourself. When you really learn this principle, then you go forth in the world, raising your kids, being a spouse, whatever, but you do it from a place of peace and love because you're content in who you are. So I started to understand health is about loving myself, and it's about non what is called in some spheres around the world is called non-attachment. That my worthiness, my validation as a person, as a human, my acceptance, my being enough is not tied to what I do or my job or what I'm not doing, or even my material possessions, what I have or what I don't have. It's tied to me loving me. And that I can do all by
Yeah.
myself. You can, that's why you see in some of the poorest parts of the world some of the happiest people because they love who they are. Versus in more developed nations, you see these millionaires and multimillionaires that are miserable because they haven't understood this principle. They've done, but it's all from a place of fear. If I don't get this money, if I don't get this, and I won't be good enough, my parents won't respect me, blah blah blah. I had to go through all of that. So it's a journey for sure. It's a journey for
Yes.
sure. And again, I talk about it all in my book, Take Back Your Life, which is now available on Amazon. But you can really start there with self-love and self-appreciation. And that has made all the difference. And to be able to do anything now, knowing that my worthiness and validation, that validation is not tied to it. I thought I'm single now, and I thought even for the longest time that my worthiness and validation was tied to being in a relationship. But I realized that's not true. I can be worthy and valuable.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
and
yeah,
that having a relationship would be a bonus then, not a necessity, but a bonus. So it's when you realize that. And so
yeah,
continuing with your question, who is Brad Carlson? I am happy, healthy, inspired. I am also
yeah.
free. Free. This is
I
freedom.
like that word free.
Yeah,
Yeah,
my joie de vivre, my well-being is not attached to what I'm doing now or what I'm not doing, what I have or what I don't have. And that is the highest level of freedom. People, you ask people, this is a very powerful question to ask anybody, what do you want? And most people can't answer that, but if they do, they may answer like, material things, a car, a house, something like that. But when you can understand that question, what do you want at a very deep level? Most people will say, I want peace. And the way you get
yeah,
peace or to be happy, the way you get peace and to be happy is to be free. And the way you be free is to realize that being attached is not who you are. That's not the real you. Probably heard the word imposter syndrome. I call it that's part of the imposter syndrome. That's part of the fake you. The real you is unattached. It doesn't need it. Now, from a physical whatever, yeah, we need food, water, shelter, all that. Companionship is great. But some of the greatest masters in the world have been just by themselves. Buddha is a perfect example of this. Uh, so it's very freeing to know that I am free, and that's for anyone searching for that higher level of peace. They want that peace of mind in a crazy modern world, as I call it, because I still work 50, 60, 70 hours a week like everybody. I still volunteer. I still train and ride my bike and get some paddle boarding in every week and walking my dog, all
right.
of that. But I can do it now because I know I'm free, and so I do the same thing. It's just you see, I'm smiling. Uh,
Yeah,
my worthiness, my well-being is not attached to any of that. And that's the greatest feeling in the world to be free. That's
mm,
for me, that's what freedom is. Yeah.
yeah. And I know a lot of people watching this probably going, "Oh my gosh, I want to be free,"
Yeah.
So let's kind of talk about how they can contact you too. I mean, I am going to be adding, I think you said 3 books, right? And I'm going to let you go over that, but I'll be adding it to our store on keephopealivepodcast.com. So they'll be able to get your books. I know I'm going to be buying, you said fly, right?
Uh,
But freedom is amazing. And I think, you're so right. You got to know who you are as a person, where you would like to be. But I say throw judgment out the door. That's a fear, like that I've always had. What is my mom or dad going to think of me? What if I don't get this job? What are people going to say? But I have to learn to let all that go, let the chips lay. But then learning about myself is like I probably don't handle stress good. So I'm like, okay, I need to work on this. And if I feel that I'm
there's
telling
a
some,
chapter in the book all about stress management.
yay, I need that book. Is it on Audible too? Did you read it on Audible?
Not on Audible yet. No, there's just the paperback and the ebook version. So
Okay.
Audible, that'll be in the future though. Yeah, that's a
Okay.
good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, I love reading books. I don't know what it is. I keep falling asleep with them in my hand.
Uh,
Like I'll start reading and I'm like, oh my gosh, what page am I on? So I started putting my AirPods in and listening to Audible books. And yeah, it's just like, even if I do fall asleep, I hope my brain is absorbing everything. that I'm hearing them say. So, but definitely. So, what are the other books called?
Well, folks can find me on Facebook. So just go to Facebook and search my name, Brad Carlson. You'll see me right there. I've got my page set up. My first book I wrote in 2016 is called Mind Strong, and it's specifically about the mindset and creating the mindset that you
Yes.
want, that you need to, again, what you focus on, you become, to focus on everything that you want in your life, not what you don't want. So that book's all about mindset. And then I wrote another. I should say manual more than book, but it is a about 300 page, packed full of videos and training videos and everything. It's a Couch to 5K beginner's run manual. And I like to call it a Couch to 5K manual on steroids because it is packed full of training videos. And like I said, it's got
That's
picture,
cool.
all kinds of pictures and everything. And I wrote that because I was a beginner runner, many, many years ago. I was a Couch to 5K. And I didn't, after I learned about running and became a run coach, I didn't like any of the apps. I didn't like what was out there. They just weren't thorough. They just weren't complete enough. So I'm like, you know what? I'll just write a book. And so 5 years, it took me 5 years and 300 pages later, but it's on Amazon now too. So if there's any beginning
Yay.
runners, Couch to 5K, please check out that book as well.
That's so cool. That's so cool. That's one thing I wish I could do or had it. It's all about time management, but I want to have a book one day. I just don't know when I'm going to get to it, but I know it's there.
Well, when you're ready, give me a call. I'm happy to walk you through it.
So thank you. I'll take you up on that.
Absolutely.
So, other than that, you mentioned your socials and Facebook and stuff like that. Do you do TikTok at all?
So I do have Instagram and TikTok. Yes, again, just look up my name, Brad Carlson.
Yeah,
You'll see me. I don't use those as much now. I'm trying to like put all my efforts and energy into one social. There's so much on social
so
media.
many. There
Sometimes
is
I'll
so
talk,
many.
pretty much.
I know what. Do what?
I'm sorry. I said pretty much everything is on Facebook for me. So.
That's good. That's good. So, yeah, I remember my son is like, if you are going to do a podcast, you need a TikTok. I go, a tick what? I
Yeah.
was like, because I think back in the day, I played around with an app called Musically because I like karaoke and I was like singing.
Oh,
I
I
go,
love
oh my
that.
gosh, it feels like almost the same thing, but it's worked out really well for a podcast world, more than Instagram. And I will admit that.
Well, there you
So, and
go.
then there's another app I like called Linktree. Because if I'm out and I meet somebody and they go, oh, I just need to talk about finding myself, and I have a great podcast to share with you. Their book is on my, oh, really? And they'll take it, but I'll send the video right to their phone right away.
Oh,
And
wow.
that's a
Goodness, yeah.
cool concept to have. So definitely. Now, also on the side, I think you said you were a world traveler. Like, where did you go? I'm gonna pick your brain on that.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, so again, back to your question, who is Brad Carlson? I answer that now. I am a world traveler. Yeah. It's always I am and then fill in the blank of what works for you. And then again, what doesn't work for you. So yeah,
Yeah.
couch, lethargic, couch, none of that worked for me. But yeah, world traveling. I have loved to travel. So I've been to 19 countries now and I've lived in, depending on how you define living, but I've lived in two extensively, Japan and the Philippines. I spent one summer in Thailand and Cambodia. Last spring, I was in Poland and Ukraine for 4 weeks. I spent one summer in Norway for 6 weeks. So yeah, I've done quite a bit of traveling. I'm very blessed. And I've
Oh
also,
man.
this is kind of fun too. Just my life, people look at my life like, oh my God, Brad, how have you done all that? I've kind of lived my life in reverse. So I live the RV lifestyle now too. And when I moved to my current city here in Tulsa from Oregon, I hooked up my RV and did the RV lifestyle. I went to Yosemite, I went to Zion,
Yeah.
I went to Bryce, and I went to Grand Canyon, all these national parks. Because that's what
That's
we
where I want to go.
that's
Yeah.
what we
I
tie our
haven't been,
kids. Yeah.
I have a bucket list. I was like, I even bought one of those Walmart piggy banks, like adventure fund. So every time
Yeah.
I'm doing laundry and I find change, I just throw it in there.
What
It's
you
like
do
one day I'm gonna get there.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yes,
Well,
you
that's
said
actually
Tulsa,
yeah.
right?
I'm in Tulsa, but that's really an interesting question. Back to what we've been talking about. Here's a really
Yeah.
good question. Anybody listening, you can ask yourself, and this is a question I teach too. What do you want your life to be about? And for me, it took me a long time to understand this too, but I wanted my life to be about travel and adventure. And so I'm like, well, why wait till I'm retired? Let's just do it now. And I'll admit it's a little easier for me because I'm single. I don't have kids at home or anything. It's just me and my dog. So I do have a little bit more freedom and flexibility there. But I think the bigger question is, what do you want your life to be about right here, right now, given your circumstances, your situation, and all that? I want my life to be about raising my kids. I want my life to be about, writing a book or something,
Yeah.
get your journal out, ask what do I want my life to be about, and just let the answers flow. And if your energy is really flowing, you're getting goosebumps as you're writing that, you're on the right page. But if you're
Right.
writing it like it doesn't resonate, it doesn't feel right, then you're probably trying to answer those from a place of fear because you think, oh, I should have my life be about something again. So it's a little, you got to be careful about that energy, what you're feeling. But that's a great question to ask, is what do you want your life to be
Yeah. And boundaries with energy too is something I
about?
had to learn is like, wow, okay, I'm the kind of like person, it's like energy based and nobody understands that. I think in my family, and I'm like, okay, it's just stop positive vibes here, no negativity. I won't even watch the news. Like if it's important, it will ding me on Facebook. Everybody will be talking about it. Like if it's not important, like I don't know. But
Let
definitely.
me let me
So
flip the script
really,
here.
really quick, I wanted to tell you about Snap Bands because this is from our other sponsor. Have you ever seen these on Facebook? This is a Snap Bands.
I
And this one
kind of
says hope. Now, the logic and theory behind these beautiful snap bands are that they have this elastic. I have my Pandora getting in the way, that you can pull it and gentle, just snap at your hair. And they have different mantra words like peace, hope, faith, whatever you're thinking. Like I will use mine when I'm at the hospital because nobody can find a vein. And I'm constantly always praying for that one nurse, let
oh,
them have confidence, God, please. Like, because I've been a target for 8 and almost 10 times to find a vein. So I feel like, oh, I don't even want to compare me that at all. But yeah, anyway, so it's supposed to, and it does, it's helped me send a signal to the brain to refocus your thought process. So with cognitive thinking and everything. So it reduces anxiety, depression, PTSD. I love it. They come in all different colors. They're waterproof. That's a big plus. Like I can do the dishes or take my shower, go swimming
and
with it
that's
on. And
true. Because when you ask again the question, who are you? PTSD, depression, all of that stuff. Then we go, is that the real you?
exactly.
And then, okay, if yes, I'm like, oh, wait a second here. But most people will say no to that question. Then I ask, who is the real you? And then we start defining who is the real you. That's what I call moving from point A to point B in your life. And that's what I had to do. The imposter me was the lethargic, overweight couch potato, but the real me was the happy, healthy, inspired world traveler, all of that stuff. So
Yeah.
I worked with a PTS combat soldier here a while back. Just one session, I took him through this process. Okay, so is PTSD the real you? That's ask him something along those lines. And he just went, oh, wait a second. And I'm like, well, who is the real you? And he didn't know. We had to really work through that and define that. But once he understood that the real him was courage, then again, what you focus on, you become. And so it's a matter
I
of shifting
see.
from focusing on being PTSD to focusing on depression. But I haven't even talked about my depression or my anxiety. I had to go through that too. That would be another podcast. But when we learn to shift away from what we don't want, what is not working in our lives, to focus and shifting on what we do want and what will work. So being a light of hope, being a light of joy, being a light of peace,
Yes.
focusing on those and realizing this is where it gets tricky, that that's the real you.
Yeah.
But the key with that soldier, I remember, and with anybody is do you actually believe that about yourself? And if you believe that right out of the bat, like I'm like a miracle worker, I'm not even that good yet. Most of the time, I didn't even with myself, people won't believe that about themselves because they have that brick wall in between that says, no, you're the PTSD. That's what they truly believe about themselves. So we have to look through those limiting beliefs, those false beliefs, those imposter beliefs about who you are to get to what I call your real identity. But I've even expanded beyond that idea of real, what that word real means. But for here, let me use a metaphor very quickly, if I may.
Hmm.
If you have a quarter has two sides, a heads and a tails, but it's all one quarter, right? All of us have two sides, and I'll just very quickly, and this is kind of an intermediate level, but use two sides, a dark and a light. Our
Hmm.
PTSD, depression, all of that represents the darkness. I'll just say that. But who we really are is the light, the joy, the hope, the peace. Now, what is preventing us? This is where the inner work comes in. What is preventing you from believing who you really are, from being who you really are? Oh, when I was 5 years old, I heard this about myself, and my dad said that I'm this and this, and I believe that. So then all of a sudden, like, is that really true though? We have to get
Yeah.
to really what is true, because what is true is, as is quoted, ye are a light of the world. Ye are the light of the world. That's from one of the greatest teachers ever to walk this planet, said that. And he meant that for everybody. And so it's a matter of shifting your focus and shifting
Yeah.
your realization of who you are. That's exactly what I had to do. Mine wasn't quite, combat PTSD. That's a little different. And the challenge, and actually, because and I just want to say, I'm really, really good at this now. I really, really understand this. But what happens is when we think and feel I'm depressed, I'm anxious, I'm PTSD, our nervous system gets completely hardwired for that. And it's just like going to the gym. Every time you go to the gym and you're lifting weights, your muscle gets stronger, right? The more sit
Yeah.
ups, the more push ups you do, the stronger you get at that particular thing. So the more you have this thought, oh, I'm depressed, I'm having anxiety attacks, I'm stressed out, PTSD, that really hardwires the nervous system. That's why I say, and in particular to anybody, the greatest, and I don't like to use the word enemy anymore, but the greatest battle you will ever have is the battle with yourself. More than any divorce, more than any other, it's with your own
Yeah.
thoughts, your own everything about yourself. And so it's really looking at that one question: who are you? I had to realize, oh, couch potato is who I'm not. Overweight,
Exactly.
lethargic, obese, couch, that's who I'm not. Oh my gosh, I thought that's who I was. So let's
Yeah.
let's create a new identity that is the opposite of all that. So
Hmm.
the opposite for me eventually became happy, healthy, and inspired. And I could show you before and after pictures. It blow your mind away. It blows my mind away when I see them. So like that used to be me. I'll send you one actually. I have it on my computer here. Uh,
Yeah, I remember looking at the pictures on my Facebook, and I can say I've come a long way. But I had to learn a lot about myself as well going through the journey. And till even today, like I mentioned to you, I'm finally a Gigi, guys. Do 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 do
yeah,
do.
yeah.
So
Congratulations.
beautiful girl, born. But what I have is more trauma from medical, a
Mm,
procedure that was done to me, and it was one thing, and it caused another medical thing that happened to me the same day. And it was just a nightmare. But for the first time,
I can coach
it
you
was
through.
weird. I went to the hospital and I was like, okay, I'm coming here. I can't look at this being a bad place, because all my memories are and there. But the more times I was there, I would feel the different things. Like my body was trying to like adjust to it. I'll be honest here with y'all and tell you, but I thought it was kind of weird. It sounds really bad. I have a condition where the pain, it's not really well known, but when it's higher than a 10 and it's forming a kidney stone too, I usually end up in the hospital to get that relief of pain medicine. But I remember having to go get a blanket out of the car to bring to my daughter's room when she was having the baby. And I was like, I got on the elevator, and the lady who works there for the food nutrition, I was like, hey, how are you? And I was like, wait a minute. She doesn't know who I am. I'm not in a hospital gown. Like, I'm like all mom and friendly. And I go, you've helped me all the time. And I want to say I appreciate you. And it just felt good saying that. But when we're working hard, but when we're getting to know ourselves, I had to learn to let it go. Just, this fear, and really work out, why is it fear? Is it because of the surgery? And yes, what happened afterward? Yes. But is there anything I can do? I got to give it to God and move on.
Well, yes, that's very good. Yeah, give it to God. Is there anything you can do? Let me ask you a different question. Is
Okay.
there is there anything you can be with regards to all of
Any,
that?
I could, yeah, I want to tell my story. I feel like education's the best. And I'm more of a listener. I believe it or not, I was chitty chatty all through high school. But I think I became a better listener in the past 2 to 3 years. Long story short, um, with that being said, hearing what people are going through, if I have something I want to intervene, I will let it out. I've been through this experience. This is a positive, but this is what happened, but I leave it in a positive. And just let them know, if the added advice needs to be, know yourself before going through this. You really ask the questions before going through this. Look, research. It's going to help you. So,
I can
anyways,
tell through your tone of voice you've been through a lot. You've been through
oh,
it.
yeah. You can read me like a book. Everybody can. I got this. So, yeah, I just say I'm a warrior. My life has been all whoop. And, we all have our moments. Everybody in this world can be very happy, very sad, but be true to yourself. If something is bugging you so much, write it down, learn from it, and how you can make it better. That's all I can say. So, yeah.
That's wonderful. You are a light of courage. I can see that. I can feel that energy through the video screen here. Absolutely, yeah.
Well, thank you. And you see, I enjoy talking to you, and you're helping so many people right now. But here's a funny thing, brought to you by Snap Bands. You can visit their website at www.snapbands, let me spell it out, SNAPPBANDZ.com. And if you want faith, the mantra word faith, you put in their secret little code KHA. Keep hope alive, and you can get the word faith. All right. So, yeah, now we're back. So,
Now that I've known you and talked to you, your podcast name, Keep Hope Alive, makes perfect sense because that's so. Who is Nadine Malone? She is a
yes.
source of keeping hope alive. I very much see that now. It's the perfect podcast name for you. It's very much a reflection of who you are. Yeah, it makes
Oh, that makes me
you
feel
are
so good
you are
because
a
really,
perfect source of keeping hope alive. Yeah, that
yeah.
radiates who you are. Yeah, that's wow. That's
It's
beautiful.
just, I tried it before podcasts were a thing. I created another company for myself, but it was doing videos and commercials, and it just didn't pan out. It was so expensive. But then I did, last year around April, another meetup group called
Mm,
Surviving the Narcissist. So I was helping a bunch of people, men and women, get away from the abuse and helping guide down the line. And I guess I marked it wrong on Meetup. Somebody thought it was online, and I'm like, I think I talked to him on the phone. I go, no, no, I don't do podcasts. And then it was just like, I talked to a friend of mine. I was like, Cassie, she goes, yes, you would be great at it. And I was like, really? But then the ball started turning, and then the world came together. My friend, she's no longer with me, but
Oh, I'm sorry.
every day at 5 o'clock after work, we talk about wanting to be heard. The world, everybody has a story. They need to be heard. And so I carry Charity's legacy on, and a part of mine. I love doing my podcast. It's who I am. You see, I had to figure out who is Nadine. Nadine wants to give back to the world, be happy, spontaneous. This is my bubbly self. It's funny where I'm working now, they do that test. I don't know what it's called, like a behavioral or I don't know, get to know you test.
Oh yeah, one of those.
But I guess my ratings were in the middle, the same height. And I'm like, oh, that's my bubbly personality coming out that got measured. So but definitely, I think, inspiration, just hearing, okay, I'm going back to your journey because it's just, I feel like it's kind of the same of what I went through too. So
There's
there's
a lot
this,
of overlap. Yeah, we had, very similar experiences, but from very different backgrounds and all that.
yeah, but I always say there is a path and we'll go through it and we get challenges to learn from it, but you teach it to people who need to know about it. Even I'm sorry, the younger ones, they're going through this, but my young ones are like, Mom, you don't know this. I saw this on TikTok and you're not saying it right. And now all these new words they have.
You mentioned
I,
about
I
stress and stress management earlier. I had an amazing, I'm like literally my epiphanies and light bulb moments are like literally at least one a day now, sometimes two or three a day. But about, I don't know, a week or maybe a month ago, I don't remember. I had this epiphany of a moment that what if I had the thought that everything that is being said to me and everything that is happening around me, whether it's a noise, a traffic jam, an email, something. My neighbor smoking pot. I got a neighbor that smokes pot all the time, and the smell, the odor. Oh my gosh. But I thought, what if I had this thought that everything that is happening all around us, that my senses, my eyes, my ears, my nose, everything, my touch are absorbing? What if this is making my sense of joy stronger? What if this is making my sense of happiness stronger? What if this is making my sense of peace stronger? What if this is making my sense of love stronger? And I went, oh my God. And when you look at life from that perspective, that everything is happening to strengthen all of your joy, your peace, your light, it's
yeah,
like it's that freaked me out even. That's a 180. So try that. Anybody listening,
yeah,
you Nathan, anybody listening, try that with your life. Say, what if this actually makes me happier? What if this actually makes me more peaceful? No matter what it is, just try
that's,
it and allow yourself the system to be open to it. I mentioned before about PTSD, how it really trains your nervous system. Well, we never have to untrain our nervous system, but we can always train our nervous system for something else. So, what if we're training our nervous system for those things that really serve our highest good? Peace, love, joy, hope, things of that
yeah.
nature. And what if everything around us is training our nervous system for our highest good? Approach life from that thought and see what happens. Wow.
Okay, I'm going to tell you there is something true about that
Yeah.
because what I got diagnosed with in my leg, I have neuropathy. I used to be diabetic before my surgeries, but the neuropathy stayed. But I have something called meralgia parathesia, where
Mhm.
I can't feel my whole left leg. It hurts. It hurts at night. It hurts so bad, but it had to make me stronger. And where I'm coming is when everything in my life went down, no job, change in relationship status, it felt like the world was just coming at me. And it felt, you know what? Like fear was here trying to take over me. And I'm like, not today. You're going away. But it takes time. So it took more than a month, but I noticed as I'm bettering myself once again, going through this process, and I love the new job I have, and the podcast is going well. My leg is not hurting as bad during the day.
Well, that's
And
good.
I'm going, this is a mind matter thing. And I
It
know
is.
I've talked to others on my podcast that take the things that are bothering me, work them out, let them go. You're going to see your health get better too. So I think those problems that we harness just control our nervous system.
Yeah, yeah, that's you just hit the nail on the head. Yeah. We're either programming our nervous system for fear or for love. So I'm like, well, why not just program it for love with instead of some of the things, why not all of the things? It just dawned on me. Yeah. Like why I don't
Yeah.
like why do I have to be in a nice, peaceful, serene environment? That's an easy atmosphere to like program myself for peace and relaxation. Why can't I just have that same thought about a noisy traffic jam or something like that? So it's really a retraining and a reprocessing, but it does work. So
You
pretty
see, that's funny you said that too, because my son is, but want a high rise. And I go, well, why do you want a high rise? I like thunderstorms and rain, and I want to hear the rain hit the glass. And then he's like, I'm going to move to Seattle. I go, I don't like gray skies. I was like, I need sunshine and I want to be around you. You're my son. But it's just those little things, finding the peace and everything. So. But man, you've been amazing. I could keep talking and talking.
thank you.
But you
This
said
is fun. I really
you
like
could come back and do another podcast, and
it.
I'd be happy to have you back on. So,
We'll talk about that, and then yeah, we'll talk about having you come on my podcast and share your stories. So yeah, we'll.
see, well, tell us about your podcast. Got to hear it.
Okay, so my podcast I've just rebranded is now called the Live Happy, Healthy, and Inspired podcast, available on Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, YouTube, all
Yep,
of the. So
probably Audible. Yeah, you said Audible, but
yeah,
that's what I'm on too. Like all of those, it
my
covers
podcast
this
is not.
podcast.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let me ask you a question, podcaster to also podcaster. I noticed somebody took my episode and they translated it into Spanish, and there was only one, and I didn't do it. Has that ever happened to any of your shows?
No, that's it would be curious to see how they translate it. If they did it like on the raw video footage of it with captions, or YouTube allows you to translate any language to any language
Oh,
through
cool.
the settings. So like this anybody who's listening to this could translate it to Russian, Japanese, Spanish, whatever they wanted
Oh, that'd be
on
cool.
the published end, but on the behind the scenes end, somebody would have to be in here translating this to add the captions that way. So I've never had that happen. No, but yeah, I go to listen. I have a friend in Romania that does a podcast in Romanian, and then I listen to her podcast, but I'll have YouTube translated to English for me with English subtitles.
That is so cool. You see, I get people from around the world that have different topics and stuff. At my last job, I had more availability to do that. Now it's harder. I get Wednesdays and maybe Saturday and Sunday in between. But yeah, but when you're passionate about it and you can make it work, you make it work. So yeah, but definitely thank you so much for coming on today.
Very much for
I
having
really
me.
appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, and remember, guys, you can get his book. It's on the store on my webpage. And if you would like to be a guest on Keep Up Alive, send it on the I can't even talk today. Here's my blooper of the day. On my website, there is a link to do a guest intake form. You can also leave a message now. I think that's pretty cool. And you can also call 833-780-HOPE if you have any questions for me or Brad. We'd be happy to get those answered for you, and I'll let you know if you get a long list of questions.
I
So,
would love that.
also, really quick, I want to thank the people who make Hope Alive afloat. As I mentioned, our sponsor is Life on Record.com. They're your interactive vintage phone recording system for any event. So look them up. We also have snapbands.com. Your bracelets here, all different colors, all different mantra words with the gentle help. It will help with anxiety and depression. And let me say, if you have PTSD, it does work. Our next one is Ogden Ventures, Mr. Marcus Ogden, who is a former football player. He has his own podcast now. He's a public speaker and author. You can find him at www.Marcus Ogden. Let me spell that too. MARQUES Ogden, ODGEN.com. Our next one is bridalshowsinc.com. Naomi Butler. She's a good friend of mine. She's been doing trade shows for the event industry for so many years. She has about 5 of them. You can go to her website and see when they're up and running. But if you want to meet your DJs, your bands, your caterers, your florists, your photographers, see a beautiful fashion show, you need to go to one of her trade shows. Our next one is Bryce Harney at brycemagic.com. Can you guess what he is? A magician. I think they call it a mentalist, mind reading mentalist magician. And he goes around doing corporate events. He does church events also, which is really cool. I want to go to one of those. Our next one is milesandSmilesEvents.com. And Deborah has been doing this. She does handwriting analysis and lipstick readings. She does all special events too. I've seen her in action, and I am so stubborn, and you have to be accurate with me. And she nailed it right on the spot. I've seen her work with others at events. Way to go, Deborah. Our next one is richmondpunch.net. He graduated from the Juilliard. He's a violinist, has been in the industry for over 30 years. And, you know, he's been seen on TV, Lifetime shows, 2 of them. He's performed in front of 1 million people before, and now he's on tour. So I know the young Richmond to our age now, which I can't say, but he's been out there doing this for a long time. Well, I want to thank you once again for coming on to the show. And wherever you find your podcasts, you'll find people alive. All right. Until next time, love and light.